this has been an ongoing thing over the last several years, the debanking of folks, where we saw this all around, specifically around 2020. We saw this happen in Canada. We've seen this from different payment processors, and payment processors have been a big point of conversation over the last few days, as we saw that that activist group try to ping various payment processors to kind of get different products pulled from platforms like Steam. Well, one of the biggest payment processors is Stripe, and also a big creator in the space. He just happens to be conservative. Is Michael Knowles. Now, did you guys see the story about Michael Knowles taking his fight against Stripe public?
I've not actually.
No. Okay, this is from Michael Knowles' Twitter handle. It says, "Hi Stripe, are we still doing this debanking thing? Was it something I said? If we say that men can't be women, if we donate to pro-life charities, if we oppose two men buying eggs, renting wombs, and commoditizing babies, does that come at the cost of debanking?" So this is 3 million views, 39,000 likes over here. Now, he continues with a giant thread here. And I actually want to pull up the video of him addressing this, if I can find that real quick. I think it's here at the very bottom. And the video makes a lot more sense. Yeah, he dropped the receipts. Now we're just going to watch the first couple minutes of this, because he explains it better than me reading all of his stuff. So this is what was going on.
Speaking of a lot of money, I've got some personal news, which is political news, that I have suspected for many months now, but I wanted to make sure that I had all the facts I could possibly gather, because this is pretty explosive as far as I'm concerned. I appear, your favorite podcast host, appears to have been debanked by Stripe. Stripe is the largest payment processor by number of merchants in the United States. So this is no minor service, this is a major service. And the way I found out about this was, at this point, 8-9 months ago, I noticed that there was a glitch in the payments that I get from X. So X pays people for tweets, and it's not a lot of money, but you get these little payments every month. And I noticed they stopped coming through. So I didn't pay much attention to it. Again, it's not a ton of money, but I looked into it, and there was some glitch, and then I don't know, clicked a button or two, fixed it. Then in January, it happened again. And I reached out to Stripe and X. And I said, "Hey, what happened? My payments for my tweets stopped coming through." And Stripe was immediately very, very cagey about it. And they said, "Well, you have to reach out to X, because your Stripe account only works with X." And this is a crucial part to the story, to figuring out why I've been deplatformed, debanked from this payment service. Because I have all sorts of business interests, different companies, all sorts of stuff, books. This service is only tied to X. And when I reached out to Stripe, they said, "Oh, you got to talk to X." I said, "Okay, I reach out to X, but X doesn't really get back to me very much." They said, "No, you got to talk to Stripe." And they said, no. Stripe says you got to talk to X. We sent them a notice back in October about an issue. And so if you want to hear, I said, "Well, you have the email. Just tell me what the email." They said, no, we're not going to tell you, but you got to talk to X. So
that's crazy.
Game of ping.
This back and forth that you see between these companies and the customer service all the time. It's so
disgusting.
Right. Yeah, we know what we said, but we're not going to tell you. You got to talk to them, because, you need to talk to them, because we're not going to tell you.
Because we're bitches and we don't want to have to face that.
Right, because they're bitches. Exactly. Yeah. Let's go and continue here.
Ping pong back and forth for months and months and months. I have the receipts for it, of course. And lo and behold, I finally hear from X that the issue is on Stripe's end, and they sent me a link to reasons that Stripe might suspend your account. And I'm looking through, and it's all sort of stuff, gun running, illicit drugs, whatever. I said, okay, none of this is checking out. And then I saw this little portion. It said, "Businesses that engage in, encourage, promote, or celebrate unlawful violence toward any group based on race, religion, disability, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other immutable characteristic." Now,
that's extremely loaded. Like, pretty much businesses that they deem unworthy of whatever cause they deem worthy. Right there, the idea of it's such
What
a
is
loaded
violence though? Like,
right.
how is-
Like, well, that's just it. Flawed. What is violence? Is because we've seen words are violence,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
right? So it's just a bunch of gobbledygook meant to cover their ass. And if they feel the need as a payment processor to make that change, they can do that right there. Just extremely broad, extremely generic, giving them extreme power in the situation. So let's continue.
Well, you know, the right gets accused of this all the time. If you think that a man can't be a woman, you're accused of committing an act of violence against some community that ontologically doesn't even really exist. Because this account, it's actually a pretty good case study for this, because the account only pertains to my use of X, which is a speech platform, a platform to express opinions, not to run guns or something like that. Because of that, it would seem quite likely, though the payment server won't be forthright about this, it would seem quite likely that I was debanked for my political opinions. I suppose political opinions, it could have been my religious opinions. There's been a ton of anti-Catholic persecution in recent years. The Biden administration sending jackbooted thugs to spy on churches, calling Catholics extremists and radicals.
All right. So you get the idea here, right? Is that the money that he earned on X through their partner program is not being paid to him via Stripe. Now, what's interesting about this is that Stripe has responded publicly about this. They said, hey, Michael, we certainly understand the frustration around this and take these concerns seriously. We'd be like to help.
We'd be like is exactly that's crazy.
We'd be like to help look into this further. If you could reach out to us over DM and with the email address on your account. And to his credit, Michael Knowles says, no, I tried to resolve your debanking with me privately for 7 months. Now I think I'm going to resolve it publicly here, which I think is probably the right way to go.
Yeah.
But so let's take it there because there's one more aspect of the story here that I want to get to. But before we get to that, y'all's thoughts on this idea of debanking people based off of their political or religious or whatever thoughts? Because my thought is that nobody, left, right, middle, center, agnostic, God believer, whatever, should ever not have access to your money for whatever reason, you know, regardless of what you believe, specifically in the United States of America, right? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this sort of reminds me of what happened, I think it's like a year or like early this year when like people in Germany will get their phones confiscated and thrown in jail because they say something naughty on Twitter. And it feels like, and those people who are in charge of it, it's like, oh, you said something that's like, against our TOS or against, you said something that's funny. And it's like, what do you guys consider like hate speech? It's like, oh, whatever we want it to be. And I feel like that's what Stripe is doing. And I think Stripe is like, okay, what do you deem as hate speech or violence or whatever? It's like, oh, whatever we want it to be. And it's good. And we're vague for reasons because we can come back to it later on and saying, oh, you said something like 2-3 years ago about something that just sort of dropped that's considered hate speech now. So I think that is the wild part. And it's just, I think debanking on any type of, just because you're, you have a religious background or you're saying something that you believe in, I think that's stupid that you can get banked for that. And that's the reason why we need to go, we need to go like third party. I think someone needs to like create something or something like that.
An alternative.
An alternative to this kind of stuff is because like if you have a monopoly, like the thing that happened with Steam and with MasterCard and Visa and PayPal, like if they have a monopoly on that shit, it's like, well, then and they all agreed on this monopolization of debanking or getting rid of something that they don't agree with. And I think that's a very, very scary world that we can potentially fall under, is because if we don't say something, they're going to continue making this worse and worse.
Yeah, this story very much sounds like yesterday's story with the Visa and the MasterCard. They're like halting what you can and cannot buy. It's like, it's your money, your choice. It's the same thing again. No one should have some moral high ground. It's a business company with money. Shut the fuck up. That's just, you don't should have any type of principles or any of these things. You just be simply processing payments. That's it.
Yeah.
We have that separation of church and state. We need to add politics now to that whole thing now.
Yeah.
Well, over the years, we've heard people say that words are violence, silence is violence, everything is violence. So when you have a payment processor saying that things could potentially be violent or discrimination, it's such a broad stroke that literally anything, whether you're silent, whether you say something, you got to pick a side. But that's the thing, they're not. It's so gray that it gives them ultimate power. But there's one more aspect to this, which is very, very intriguing here. And that is this from Stripe. Hi, Michael Knowles. By way of follow-up, we can confirm that the restrictions placed on your account were not taken unilaterally by Stripe, but were the result of a legally binding order that was issued to us.
What?
Our support team previously reached out to X regarding this matter. In order to maintain your privacy, we are following up with you in a separate email with additional information. So many questions based on
Ben Shapiro stealing his money.
So I mean, maybe, but so who sent? That's the question. Who sent the legally binding order that was issued to them? That's there's a lot more questions here, as you see Congman over here, fellow Asian, by the way.
Shout out.
The homies.
That's who was it that ordered you to debank Knowles, right? That's just it. Who did this? And I asked Rock to kind of explain this a little bit further. So Stripe's response indicates a legally binding order led to debanking Michael Knowles, a conservative commentator known for controversial statements like advocating eradication of transgender ideology. Right there. No public evidence or specific legal citation accompanies Stripe's claim, raising questions about transparency, especially given historical cases like the 2019 deplatforming of Gab, where payment processors acted under vague, quote, legal obligations, with critics arguing this enables selective censorship without accountability, which I would say that we are all one of those, we are all those critics in this situation here.
I hope Michael Knowles comes out and says what's in that email, because I'm like, that specifically got me intrigued. What could it be? I don't understand. What could be the legally binding order?
Yeah, and I want to know who sent it. I want to know why they sent it, and specifically, what all that entails.
We're gonna find out. It's Daily Wire is what's gonna happen.
Oh man,
that's what we're gonna find out.
So the timing,
anything else.
So the timing aligns with the recent financial censorship debates, such as Steam's 2025 adult games restrictions driven by payment provider pressure, hinting at a broader pattern where private companies enforce public policy under legal pretext, potentially impacting free speech, with no peer-reviewed studies yet to quantify this effect across industries. Bringing it back to video games, everybody, with this here. So, yeah, man. What? I hope that Michael Knowles continues to press this publicly. It should be pressed publicly, and everybody should know exactly what's happening. Like, it's not about the X money. I guarantee it's not about the X money for him. It's about the way much more. The idea that if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. And if you're not Michael Knowles with, 1.3 million followers over on X to be able to get the word out and put the spotlight on what's going on with Stripe and this potentially whoever sent this in, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to Flawed. It can happen to Blabs. It can happen
to me.
Because
Locals is Stripe. And well, everything's Stripe, but like Locals is Stripe, and they're like, yeah, you can say whatever you want over here. When I first had a meeting with them, they're like, you just say whatever you want, more free than anything else, basically. Like, but if they're gonna just like, you can't even get money from Locals if they chose to take it from you, because they're Stripe too. That's
very
crazy
true
to me.
Yeah, that is true. That's very, very true. And yeah, that's Side Scrollers Plus, powered by Stripe from a payment processing aspect of it. Man, this is just an absolute mess. So they truly are literally everywhere. So hey, YouTube suggested that you should watch this video too. So you should probably do it.